Begin on all fours. And if your knees are sensitive, you can use a blanket under the knees. See that your palms are shoulder wide apart. Pointer fingers are pointing in the same direction, so they're parallel. Knees are directly beneath the hips. Feet may start flat on the floor. So we'll begin by finding a neutral spine. Note that your spine is not overarched or hunched, but shoulders are in line with hips. Navel is pulled gently towards spine. Spread the fingers wide apart and press more into the root of the index finger and the thumb. Externally rotate the arms by drawing the eyes of the elbows to face forward, and one way you can test this is to bend the elbows. They should be pointing back toward the knees. Notice when you draw the elbows forward, the shoulders may tend to scoot toward the ears, so lengthen also the shoulders away from the ears. Lengthen the neck long and the tailbone away from the rib cage. So from this solid foundation in the arms, pressing the shoulders strongly into the floor. Inhale, tuck the toes under. Exhale here to pull the navel into the spine. Inhale, lift the knees off of the floor. And exhale, straighten the legs, pointing the toes into the floor, tailbone up toward the sky. As you find strong, solid legs, lifting your tailbone toward the ceiling. Watch my shoulders here. Lengthening the side chest, the shoulders long to create more space in the spine as you lengthen the tailbone toward the sky. From here, draw the inner thighs back, the inner knees back. The heels up toward the ceiling, lifting kneecaps, tops of the thighs back. Let the head rest, dangle, and breathe here. Rooting into the index finger and the thumb. Creating space for the shoulders and lengthening the tailbone up toward the sky. Now if you find that you can lift the kneecaps and keep them lifted, keep the tailbone lifted toward the ceiling as you lengthen very slowly the inner heels toward the floor. Keeping the length in the spine, tailbone up toward the sky. And maybe someday, after a lot of practice, the heels may touch the floor. After a few deep abdominal breaths, with each inhale, expanding the chest, the belly, and the exhale, drawing navel into spine, creating a concave belly. You can exhale to lower the knees a little wider than hip wide apart. Draw the base of the big toes together, sink the hips back and down for child's pose. And take a few breaths here in Balasana. Now if you find that you have very tight hamstrings, and if you come into the pose and have a rounded back, then it's absolutely fine for you to bend your knees in order to take the roundness out of the spine, to protect the integrity of the spine first. And then after a lot of practice, you may find that you can begin to straighten the legs. But feel okay with coming into the pose with bent knees at first as you practice. If the hamstrings still feel too limiting, you can try using 2 blocks. one under each hand, so make sure the blocks are shoulder wide apart. Roll, same setup, so roll the arms externally, tuck the toes under, inhale, lift the knees, exhale, hips back. You can come onto the toes here, or if the spine is still rounded, bend the knees until you can straighten the spine. And maybe with practice over time, you can begin to straighten the legs. If that is still not accessible for you, there's another option you can try. Downward dog at the wall. So coming to the wall, bend your knees quite a bit. Place your palms on the wall as though your palms are on the floor, so shoulder wide apart. And begin to step your feet back. Keep the feet hip wide apart. Keep the knees bent and find a straight spine. Once you find a straight spine, relax the head. Push the shoulders into the hands and the hands into the wall. Tailbone away. So find that you're taking the roundness out of the spine. And from there, with a neutral spine, you can begin to straighten the legs. And as soon as you feel a roundness in the low back, that's your edge of the pose. That's your limit where you should stay and work with breath. So beginning to encourage the knees to move back. Inner thighs back, tops of the thighs move back. And with time, gain some flexibility in the hamstrings. But the most important part of this pose is keeping a neutral spine. To come out, gaze forward, bending the knees, step the feet forward, and hands come to the sides. Namaste.